Hello, everybody. Welcome to Voice Theater's live stream reading of Thornton Wilder's Our Town. We're very excited to bring this reading into your home. I'm Shauna Cantor, Artistic Director of Voice Theater, and we hope that everyone in your home is healthy during these challenging times. Tonight, you're going to hear the first act of Our Town. We have actors who are in New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, and the Hudson Valley. And if for some reason one of our actors' internet connections gets weak, you will hear another actor's voice cover until that connection gets better. And if you have the possibility to view this stream in speaker view, that's best. If not, please enjoy tonight's reading in the gallery view, which you'll find on the upper right-hand corner. We all look forward to this time when we can see you live in the theater. But for now, please enjoy Our Town by Thornton Wilder.
This play is called Our Town. It was written by Thornton Wilder, produced and directed by Shauna Cantor. In it, you will see Miss Adler, Miss Glazos, Miss Howell, and Mr. Feltner, Mr. Little and Mr. Marinan, and many others. The name of the town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just across the Massachusetts line, latitude 42 degrees, 40 minutes, longitude 70 degrees, 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The day is May 7th, 1901. The time is just before dawn. The sky is beginning to show some sneaks of light over in the east there, behind our mountain. The morning star always gets wonderful bright the minute it has to go, doesn't it? Well, I'd better show you how our town lies. We have a main street, a railway station, Polish towns across the tracks, some Canuck families. Over there is the Congregational Church. Across the streets, the Presbyterians. Methodist and Unitarian are over there. Baptist is down in the hollow by the river. Catholic Church is beyond the tracks. The town hall and post offices combined, jails in the basement. Brian once made a speech from these very steps here. Along here is a row of stores, hitching posts and horse blocks in front of them. First automobiles going to come along in about 5 years belong to banker Cartwright, our richest citizen, lives in the White House on the hill. Here's the grocery store, and here's Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody in town manages to look into those two stores once a day. Public schools over yonder, high schools still farther over, 8:45 mornings, noon times, 3 o'clock afternoons, the whole town can hear the yelling and screaming from those schoolyards. This is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. This is the back door. This is Mrs. Gibbs's garden. Corn, peas, beans, hollyhocks, heliotrope, and a lot of burdock. In those days, our newspaper come out twice a week, the Grover's Corners Sentinel. And this is Editor Webb's house. And this is Mrs. Webb's garden, just like Mrs. Gibbs's, only it's got a lot of sunflowers too. And right here, it's a big butternut tree. Nice town, you know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable ever came out of it, as far as we know. The earliest tombstones in the cemetery up there on the mountain say 1670 to 1680. There are Grovers and Cartwrights and Gibbses and Hershey's. Same names are all around now. Well, as I said, it's about dawn. The only lights on in town are in a cottage over by the tracks where a Polish mother just had twins. And in the Joe Crowell house where Joe Jr.'s getting up so as to deliver the paper. And in the depot where Shorty Hawkins is getting ready to flag the 5:45 for Boston. Naturally, Out in the country, all around, there have been lights on for some time, what with Milkins and so on. But town people sleep late. So another day's begun. There's Doc Gibbs coming down Main Street now, coming back from that baby case. And here's his wife coming downstairs to get breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. The new hospital's named after him. Mrs. Gibbs died first, long time ago, in fact. She went out to visit her daughter, Rebecca, who married an insurance man in Canton, Ohio, and died there of pneumonia. But her body was brought back up here. She's up in the cemetery there now with a whole mess of Gibbses and Herseys. She was Julia Hersey before she married Doc Gibbs at the Congregational Church over there. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. There's Mrs. Webb coming downstairs to get her breakfast too. That's Doc Gibbs. Got that call at 1:30 this morning. And there comes Joe Crowell Jr. delivering Mr. Webb's Sentinel.
Morning, Doc Gibbs.
Morning, Joe.
Somebody been sick, Doc?
No, just some twins born over in Polish town.
Do you want your paper now?
Yes, I'll take it. Anything serious going on in the world since Wednesday?
Yes, sir. My school teacher, Miss Foster's getting married to a fellow over in Concord.
I declare. How do you boys feel about that?
Well, of course, it's none of my business, but I think if a person starts out to be a teacher, she ought to stay on.
How's your knee, Joe?
Fine, Doc. I never think about it at all. Only like you said, it always tells me it's going to rain.
What's it telling you today? Going to rain?
No, sir.
Sure?
Yes, sir.
Knee ever make a mistake?
No, sir.
I want to tell you something about that boy, Joe Crowell there. Joe was awful bright, graduated from high school here, head of his class. So he got a scholarship to Massachusetts Tech, graduated head of his class there too. It was all wrote up in the Boston paper at the time. Going to be a great engineer, Joe was. But the war broke out and he died in France. All that education for nothing.
Oh, get up, Bessie. What's the matter with you today?
Here comes Howie Newsom delivering the milk.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howie.
Was somebody sick?
A pair of twins over at Mrs. Goroslavsky's.
Oh, twins, huh? Oh, this town is getting bigger every year.
Gonna rain, Howie?
No, fine day. That'll burn through. All right, come on, Bessie.
Hello, Bessie. How old is she, Howie?
Oh, she's going on 17. Bessie's all mixed up about the route ever since the Lockhart stopped taking their quart of milk. She wants to deliver it to them all the same. Keep scolding me the whole trip.
Morning, Howie.
Oh, morning, Ms. Gibbs. Doc's just coming down the street.
Is he? Seems like you're late today.
Yeah, something went wrong with the separator. Don't know what it was. Doc?
Howie?
Children, time to get up.
All right, come on, Bessie.
George, Rebecca. Everything all right, Frank?
Yes, I declare, easy as kittens.
Well, bacon will be ready in a minute. Sit down and drink your coffee. You can catch a couple of hours sleep this morning, can't you?
Mrs. Wentworth's coming at 11. Guess I know it's at about, too. Her stomach ain't what it ought to be.
All told, you won't get more than 3 hours sleep, Frank Gibbs. I don't know what's going to become of you. You know, I do wish I could get you to go away someplace and take a rest. I think that would do you good.
Emily, time to get up, Wally. 7 o'clock.
I declare, you got to speak to George. Seems like something's come over him lately. You know, he's no help to me at all. I can't even get him to cut me some wood.
Is he sassy to you?
No, he just whines. All he thinks about is that baseball. George! Rebecca! You'll be late for school.
Yeah.
George!
George, look sharp.
Yes, Pa.
Don't you hear your mother calling you? I guess I'll go upstairs and get 40 winks.
Wally, Emily, you'll be late for school. Wally, you wash yourself good or I'll come up and do it myself.
Ma, what dress shall I wear?
Don't make a noise. Your father's been out all night and needs his sleep. Now I washed and ironed the blue gingham for you special.
Ma, I hate that dress.
Oh, hush up with you.
Every day I go to school just like a sick turkey.
Now, Rebecca, you always look very nice.
Mama, George is throwing soap at me.
I'll come up there and scream and I'm gonna slap both of you. That's what I'll do.
We've got a factory in our town too. Hear it? Makes blankets. Cartwrights own it, and it brung them a fortune.
Children, now I won't have it. Breakfast is just as good as any other meal, and I won't have you gobbling like wolves. It'll stunt your growth. That's a fact. Put away your book, Wally.
Oh, Mom, by 10 o'clock, I gotta know all about Canada.
Now, you know the rule as well as I do. No books at table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy than bright.
I'm both, Mama. You know I am. I'm the brightest girl in school for my age. I have a wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
I'm bright, too, when I'm looking at my stamp collection.
I'll speak to your father about it when he's rested. Seems to me 25 cents a week's enough for a boy your age. I declare I don't know how you spend it all.
Oh, Ma, I got things to buy.
Yeah, strawberry phosphates, that's what you spend it on.
I don't see how Rebecca comes to have so much money. She has more than $1.
I've been saving it up gradual.
Well, dear, I think it's a good thing to spend some money every now and then.
Mama, do you know what I love most in the world? Do you? Money.
Eat your breakfast.
Mama, there's first bell.
I don't want any more.
I gotta hurry.
I gotta hurry.
Walk fast, but you don't have to run. Wally, pull up your pants at the knee. Stand up straight, Emily.
Tell Miss Foster I wish her my best congratulations. Can you remember that?
Yes, Ma.
Mhm. You look real nice, Rebecca. Pick up your feet.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Here, chick, chick, chick. No, go away, you. Go away. Here, chick, chick, chick. What's the matter with you? Fight, 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 fight. That's all you ever do. You don't belong to me. Where'd you come from? Oh, don't be so scared. Nobody's gonna hurt you. Oh, good morning, Myrtle. How's your cold?
Well, I still get that tickling feeling in my throat. I told Charles I didn't notice I'd go to choir practice tonight. Wouldn't be any use.
Have you tried singing over it?
Yes, but somehow I can't do that and stay on the key. While I'm resting myself, I thought I'd string some of these beans.
Well, let me help you. Beans have been good this year.
I've decided to put up 40 quarts if it kills me. The children say they hate them, but I notice they're able to get them down all winter.
Now, Myrtle, I've got to tell you something because if I don't tell somebody, I'll burst.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
Here, give me some more of those beans. Myrtle, did one of those secondhand furniture men from Boston come to see you last Friday?
No.
Well, he called on me. And first I thought it was a patient waiting to see Dr. Gibbs. He wormed his way into my parlor, and Myrtle Webb, he offered me $350 for Grandmother Wentworth's high boy as I'm sitting here.
Why, Julia Gibbs?
He did. That old thing, why, it was so big, I didn't know where to put it. And I almost gave it to cousin Hester Wilcox.
Well, you're gonna take it, aren't you?
I don't know.
You don't know $350. What's
Well-
come over you?
Oh, well, if I could get the doctor to take the money and go away someplace on a real trip, I'd sell it like this. You know, Myrtle, it's been a dream of mine to see Paris, France. Oh, I don't know. It sounds crazy, I suppose, but for years I've been promising myself that if we ever had the chance.
Well, how does Doctor feel about it?
Well, I did beat around the bush a little and said that if I got a legacy, that's the way I'd put it, I'd make him take me somewhere.
Mm-hmm. What did he say?
You know how he is. I haven't heard a serious word out of him since I've known him. No, he said, might make him discontented, with Grover's Corners to go traipsing about Europe. Better let well enough alone, he says. Every 2 years he makes a trip to the battlefields of the Civil War, and that's enough treat for anybody, he says.
Well, Mr. Webb just admires the way Dr. Gibbs knows everything about the Civil War. Mr. Webb's a good mind to give up Napoleon and move over to the Civil War, only Dr. Gibbs being one of the greatest experts in the country just makes him despair.
It's a fact. Dr. Gibbs is never as happy when he's in Antietam or Gettysburg. The times I've walked over those hills, Myrtle, stopping at every bush and pacing it all out like we were going to buy it.
Well, if that secondhand man's really serious about buying it, Julia, you sell it. And then you'll get to see Paris all right. Just keep dropping hints from time to time. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean, you know?
Oh, I'm sorry I mentioned it. Only it seems to me that once in your life, before you die, you ought to see a country where they don't talk in English and don't even want to.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to skip a few hours, but first we want a little more information about the town, kind of a scientific account, you might say. So I've asked Professor Willard of our state university to sketch in a few details of our past history here. Is Professor Willard here? May I introduce Professor Willard of our state university? A few brief notes. Thank you, Professor. Unfortunately, our time is limited.
Grover's Corners, let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old Pleistocene granite of the Appalachian Range. I may say we're very proud of that. A shelf of Devonian basalt crosses it with vestiges of Mesozoic shale and some sandstone outcroppings. But that's all more recent, 200, 300 million years old. Some highly interesting fossils have been found, I may say, unique fossils, 2 miles out of town in Silas Pickham's cow pasture. They can be seen at the museum in our university at any time, that is, any reasonable time. Shall I read some of the Professor Gruber's notes on the meteorological situation, mean precipitation, etc.?
Afraid we won't have time for that, Professor. We might have a few words on the history of man here.
Yes, anthropological data. Early Amerindian stock, Cotahatchee tribes, no evidence before 10th century in this era, now entirely disappeared. Possible traces in 3 families, migration toward the end of the 17th century of English, brachycephalic blue-eyed stock for the most part. Since then, we got some Slav and some Mediterranean.
And the population, Professor Willard?
Within the town limits, 2,640.
Just a moment, Professor.
Oh, yes, indeed. The population at the moment now is 2,642. The postal district brings in 507 more, making a total of 3,149. Mortality and birth rates constant. By McPherson's gauge, 6,032.
Thank you very much, Professor. We're all very much obliged to you, I'm sure.
Not at all, sir, not at all.
Wait, Professor, and thank you again. Now, THW, Political and Social Report, Editor Webb. Oh, Mr. Webb. Mr. Webb.
He'll be here in a minute. He just cut his hand while he was eating an apple.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Webb.
Charles, everybody's waiting.
Mr. Webb is publisher and editor of the Grover's Corner Sentinel. That's our local paper, you know.
Well, I don't have to tell you that we're run by a board of selectmen. All males vote at the age of 21. Women vote indirectly. We're a lower middle class, sprinkling of professional men, 10% illiterate laborers. Politically, we're 86% Republican, 6% Democrats, and 4% socialists, rest indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestant, 12% Catholic, and rest indifferent.
Have you had any comments, Mr. Webb?
Oh, very ordinary town, if you ask me. A little better behaved than most. Probably a lot duller. But our young people here, they seem to like it well enough. 90% of them graduate from high school, settle down right here to live, even when they've been away to college.
Now, is there anyone in the audience who would like to ask Editor Webb anything about the town?
Is there much drinking in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, well, I wouldn't know what you'd call much. Now, Saturday nights, the farmhands meet down in Ellery Greenborough's stable. They holler some. We got one or two town drunks. They always have some remorses every time an evangelist comes to town. So, no, ma'am, I'd say liquor ain't a regular thing in the town here, except in the medicine chest. You know, right good for snake bites. You know, always was.
Is there no one in town aware of?
Come forward, will you, where we can all hear you. What were you saying?
Is there no one in town aware of social injustice and industrial inequality?
Oh, yes. Yes, everybody. Something terrible. Seems like they spend most of their time talking about who's rich and who's poor.
Then why don't they do something about it?
Well, I don't know. I guess we're all hunting like everybody else for a way the diligent and sensible can rise to the top and the lazy and quarrelsome can sink to the bottom. But it ain't easy to find. And meanwhile, we all do all we can to help those that can't help themselves, and those that can we leave alone. So, are there any more questions?
Oh, Mr. Webb, is there any culture or love of beauty in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, there ain't much, not in the sense you mean. Now, come to think of it, there's some girls that play piano at the high school commencement, but they ain't happy about it. So no, ma'am, there isn't much culture. But maybe this is the place to tell you that we got a lot of pleasure of a kind here. We like the sun coming up over our mountain in the morning. And we all notice a good deal about the birds, pay a lot of attention to them. And we watch the change of the seasons. So yes, everybody knows about them. And those other things, you're right, ma'am. There ain't much, you know, Robinson Crusoe and the Bible and Handel's Largo. And we all know that. And Whistler's Mother. Those are just about as far as we go.
So I thought. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Now, we'll go back to the town. It's early afternoon. All 2,642 have had their dinners and dishes have been washed. There's an early afternoon calm in our town. A buzzing and a humming from the school buildings. Only a few buggies on Main Street, the horses dozing at the hitching posts. You all remember what it's like. Doc Gibbs is in his office tapping people and making them say, "Ah, Mr. Webb's cutting his lawn over there." One man in 10 thinks it's a privilege to push his own lawnmower. No, sir, it's later than I thought. There are the children coming home from school already.
No, I can't, Louise. I've got to go home and help my mother. I promised.
Emily, walk simply. Where do you think you are today?
Papa, you're terrible. One minute you tell me to stand up straight, and the next minute you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Well, golly, I never got kissed by such a great lady before.
Hello, Emily.
Hello.
You made a fine speech in class.
Well, I was really ready to make a speech about the Monroe Doctrine, but at the last minute, Miss Corcoran made me talk about the Louisiana Purchase instead. I worked an awful long time on both of them.
Gee, it's really funny, Emily. From my window up there, I can just see your head nights when you're doing your homework over in your room.
Why, can you?
You certainly do stick to it, Emily. I don't see how you can sit still that long. I mean, I guess you like school.
Well, I always feel it's something you have to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, really. It passes the time.
Yeah. Emily, what do you think that we might work out a kind of telegraph from your window to mine, and once in a while you could kind of hint, one or two of those algebra problems. I don't know. I don't mean the answers, Emily. Of course not. Just a little hint.
Oh, well, I think hints are allowed. So if you get stuck, George, you just whistle to me and I'll give you some hints.
Emily, you're just naturally bright, I guess.
I figure it's just the way a person's born.
Yeah, but you see, I want to be a farmer, and my Uncle Luke says whenever I'm ready, I can come over and work his farm. Even if I'm any good, I'll just gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah. Well, thanks. I better be getting to the baseball field. Thanks for the talk, Emily. Good afternoon, Mrs. Webb.
Good afternoon, George.
So long, Emily.
So long, George.
Emily, come and help me string these beans for the winter. George Gibbs let himself have a real conversation, didn't he? Why, he's growing up. How old would George be?
I don't know.
Let's see. He must be almost 16.
Mama, I made a speech in class today and I was very good.
Well, you must recite it to your father at supper. What was it about?
The Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off a spool. I'm going to make speeches all my life. Mama, are these big enough?
Try to get them a little bigger if you can.
Mama, will you answer me a question, serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously, will you?
Of course I will.
Mama, am I good looking?
Yes, of course you are. All my children have got good features. I'd be ashamed if they didn't.
Oh, Mama, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, am I pretty?
I've already told you, yes. Now that's enough of that. You have a nice, young, pretty face. I never heard of such foolishness.
Mama, you never tell us the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Yes, I was. If I do say it, I was the prettiest girl in town next to Mamie Cartwright.
But Mama, you have to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get anybody, to get people interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired. Now stop it. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Come along now, bring that bowl with you.
Mama, you're no help at all.
Thank you, that'll do. We have to interrupt again here. Thank you, Mrs. Webb, thank you, Emily. There are some more things we want to explore about this town. I think this is a good time to tell you that the Cartwright interests have just begun building a new bank in Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marble, sorry to say. And they've asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstone for people to dig up. 1,000 years from now. Of course, They put in a copy of the New York Times and a copy of Mr. Webb's Sentinel. We're kind of interested in this because some scientific fellows have found a way of painting all that reading matter with a glue, a silicate glue that'll make it keep 1,000, 2,000 years. We are putting in a Bible and the Constitution of the United States and a copy of William Shakespeare's plays. What do you say, folks? What do you think? You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it. 2 million. And all we know about them is the names of the kings and some copies of wheat contracts and contracts for the sale of slaves. Yet every night, all those families sat down to supper and the father came home from his work and the smoke went up in the chimney, same as here. And even in Greece and Rome, all we know about the real life of the people is what we can piece together out of the joking poems and the comedies they wrote for the theater back then. So I'm going to have a copy of this play put in the cornerstone, and the people 1,000 years from now, they'll know a few simple facts about us more than the Treaty of Versailles and the Lindbergh Flight. See what I mean? So people 1,000 years from now, this is the way we were in the provinces north of New York at the beginning of the 20th century. This is the way we were in our growing up and in our marrying and in our living and in our dying. We share our mutual woes, our mutual burdens bear, and well, good deal of time's gone by. It's evening. You can hear choir practice going on in the Congregational Church. The children are at home doing their schoolwork. The day's running down like a tired clock.
Now look here, everybody. Music come into the world to give pleasure. Softer, softer. Get it out of your heads that music's only good when it's loud. You leave loudness to the Methodists. You couldn't beat them, even if you wanted to. Now again, tenors.
Emily!
Hello?
Hello!
I can't work at all. The moonlight's so terrible.
Emily, did you get the third problem?
Which?
The third.
Right, yes, George. That's the easiest one of them all.
Well, I don't see it. Emily, can you give me a hint?
I'll tell you one thing. The answer's in yards.
Wait, in yards? How do you mean?
In square yards.
Oh, square yards.
Yes, George, don't you see?
Yeah.
Square yards of wallpaper.
Oh, wallpaper. Oh, I see. Thanks a lot, Emily.
You're welcome. Isn't the moonlight terrible? And the choir practice going on. I think if you hold your breath, you can hear the train all the way to Kentucky. Can you hear it?
No? What do you know?
Well, I guess I better go and try to work.
Good night, Emily. And thanks.
Good night, George.
Before I forget it, how many will be able to come in Thursday afternoon and sing at Fred Hersey's wedding? Show your hands. That'll be fine. That'll be right nice. We'll do the same music we did for Jane Trowbridge's last month. Now we'll do Art Thou Weary, Art Thou Languid. It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Make it talk. Ready?
Oh, George, can you come down a minute?
Yes, Pa?
Make yourself comfortable, George. I'll only keep you a minute. George, how old are you?
I'm 16, almost 17.
What do you want to do after school's over?
Well, Pa, I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
You'll be willing, will you, to get up early and milk and feed the stock, and you'll be able to hoe and hay all day?
Sure, I will. What do you mean, Pa?
Well, George, while I was in my office today, I heard a funny sound. Now, what do you think it was? It was your mother chopping wood. There you see your mother getting up early, cooking meals all day long, washing and ironing, and still she has to go out in the backyard and chop wood. I suppose she just got tired of asking you. She just gave up and decided it was easier to do it herself. And you eat her meals and put on the clothes she keeps nice for you. And you run off and play baseball like she's some kind of hired girl that we keep around the house, but we don't like very much. Well, I knew all I had to do was call your attention to it. Here's a handkerchief, son. George, I've decided to raise your spending money 25 cents a week. Not, of course, for chopping wood for your mother, because that's a present you give her, but because you're getting older, and I imagine there are lots of things you must find to do with it.
Thanks, Pa.
Let's see. Tomorrow's your payday. You can count on it. Probably Rebecca will feel she ought to have some more too. Wonder what could have happened to your mother. Choir practice never was as late as this before.
It's just 8:30, Pa.
I don't know why she's in that old choir. She hasn't any more voice than an old crow, traipsing around the streets at this hour of the night. Just about time you retired, don't you think?
Yes, Pa.
Good night, Martha. Good night, Mr. Foster.
I'll tell Mr. Webb. I know he'll want to put it in the paper.
My, it's late.
Good night, Irma.
Real nice choir practice, wasn't it? Wasn't it, Myrtle Webb? Look at that moon, will you? Potato weather for sure.
Naturally, I didn't want to say a word about it in front of those others, but now that we're alone, really, it's the worst scandal that ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stimpson?
Oh, now, Luella.
But Julia, to have the organist of a church drink and drunk year after year? You know he was drunk tonight.
Now, Luella, we all know about Mr. Stimpson, and we all know about the troubles he's been through. And Dr. Ferguson knows too. And if Dr. Ferguson keeps him on there in his job, the only thing the rest of us can do is just not notice it.
Not to notice it? But it's getting worse.
No, it isn't, Luella. It's getting better. I've been in that choir twice as long as you have. It doesn't happen anywhere near so often. My, I hate to go to bed on a night like this. I better hurry. Those children will be sitting up till all hours. Good night, Luella.
Good night.
Can you get home safe, Luella?
Oh, it's as bright as day. I can see Mr. Soames scowling at the window now. Oh, you'd think we'd been to a dance the way the men folk carry on. Good night.
Well, we had a real good time.
You're late enough.
Well, Frank, it ain't any later than usual.
And you stopping at the corner to gossip with a lot of hens.
Oh, now, Frank, don't be grouchy. Come out and smell the heliotrope in the moonlight. Isn't it wonderful? What'd you do all the time I was away?
Oh, I read as usual. What were the girls gossiping about tonight?
Oh, believe me, Frank, there is something to gossip about.
Simon Stimson far gone, is he?
Worse than I've ever seen him. Now, how that'll end, Frank? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
I guess I know more about Simon Stimson's affairs than anybody in this town. Some people ain't made for small town life. I don't know how that'll end, but there's nothing we can do about it, but just leave it alone. Come, let's get in.
No, not yet. Frank, I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
I think it's my duty to make plans for you to get a real rest and change. And if I get that legacy, well, I'm going to insist on it.
Now, Julia, there's no sense in going over that again.
Frank, you're just being unreasonable.
Oh, come on, Julia. It's getting late. First thing you know, you catch cold. I gave George a piece of my mind tonight. I reckon you'll have your wood chopped for a while anyway. No, start getting upstairs.
Oh dear, there's always so many things to pick up, seems like. You know, Frank, Mrs. Fairchild always locks her front door every night. All those people up that part of town do.
They're all getting citified. That's the trouble with them. They haven't got nothing fit to burgle, and everybody knows it.
Get out, Rebecca. There's only room for one at this window, and you're always spoiling everything.
Well, let me look just a minute.
Use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think? Do you? I think maybe the moon's getting nearer and nearer, and there'll be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon were getting nearer, the guys that set up with telescopes, they would see it and they would tell us about it, and then it would be in all the papers.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Well, it probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights are out. No, there's Constable Warren trying a few doors on Main Street. And here comes Editor Webb after putting his newspaper to bed.
Evening, Bill.
Evening, Mr. Webb.
Quite a moon.
Yep.
Well, it's quiet tonight.
Oh, Simon Stimson's rolling around a bit, but just saw his wife moving out to hunt for him, so I looked the other way. Oh, there he is now.
Yeah, good evening, Simon. Town seems to have settled down for the night pretty well. Yeah. Oh, well, it's a good evening. Yeah, so most of the town settled down for the night, Simon. I guess we better do the same. Yeah. Can I walk along a ways with you? Good night.
I don't know how that's going to end, Mr. Webb.
Well, he seems a peck of trouble. One thing after another. Oh, Bill, you see my boy smoking cigarettes. Just give him a word, will you? He thinks a lot of you.
I don't think he smokes no cigarettes, Mr. Webb. Leastways, no more than 2 or 3 a year.
Yeah, well, I hope not. Anyway, good night, Bill.
Good night, Mr. Webb.
Who's that up there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, it's me, Papa.
Why aren't you in bed?
I don't know. I just can't sleep yet, Papa. The moonlight's so wonderful. And the smell of Mrs. Gibbs's heliotrope. Can you smell it?
Yeah. Yes. Well, you haven't any trouble on your mind, have you, Emily?
Troubles, Papa? No.
Well, you enjoy yourself. Don't let your mother catch you up. Good night, Emily.
Good night, Papa.
I never told you about that letter Jane Crawford got from her minister when she was sick. He wrote Jane a letter, and on the envelope, the address was like this. It said, Jane Crawford, the Crawford Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, United States of America.
What's funny about that?
But listen, it's not finished. The United States of America, continent of North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. That's what it said on the envelope.
Well, what do you know?
And the postman brought it just the same.
What do you know?
That's the end of the first act, friends. We'll see you tomorrow night, same time, same place, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Remember to use the link that says Act 2 in the email invitation. Stay healthy and stay safe. And those of you who want to donate clothing and new games and puzzles to the refugee kids, you can mail them to Voice Theater, P.O. Box 353, Bearsville, New York, 12409. And the address is on the email link if I went too fast. Remember, we're all in this together. Night, night.
Thanks for spending time with us. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Act 2. The link, and it's a different link for Act 2, is in the email you received. And if you want to donate clothing to the refugee boys, or if you want to donate to Voice Theater, or if you have any questions or ideas, please email us at info@voicetheater.org. And that's theater with an R-E on the end. See you tomorrow night. Thanks for listening and watching. Stay healthy and wash your hands.